Right, so had some more physical media library news come across the ticker, and not really 100% sure full details on it. It's interesting depending on which side you kind of read from. I'm going to be referencing Politico and MSN. It's kind of interesting how they phrase this. So, on May 8th, President Trump abruptly fired the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden, because Hayden did not fit the needs of the American people. There were quite concerning things she had done at the Library of Congress in the pursuit of DEI and putting inappropriate books in the library for children. We don't believe she was serving the interest of the American taxpayer. So here's the problem with that. And by DEI, obviously, we know what they mean. LGBTQA+, trans, that kind of material is specifically what they're discussing here. So they say putting inappropriate books in the library for children. So problem one with that is that the Library of Congress is not a public library. The Library of Congress is a research library. You must be 16 years or older, and you do not have the ability to just walk up to shelves and browse the books. The books are stored in stacks beneath the library. You browse the catalog, fill out a request for a book, and you go on through. Something else that is not really shown here as to what they're defining it as. The Library of Congress also handles copyrights. So if you write a DEI book and send it to the Library of Congress, the Library of Congress will verify that your book qualifies for copyright, write the copyright, and then make the decision to either leave the book in the library's collection or not leave the book in the library's collection. So there's very, very important thing that I have not yet found as to how they're clarifying it. It says putting inappropriate books in the library for children is one thing, but if what they are referencing is they should not be authorizing copyright for these books is a much more serious thing, because it is up to the LOC themselves as to whether or not the books stay in the research library or not. The book that Mom wrote 50 years ago, the Library of Congress did not choose to keep it. There's not a copy of it in their collection. But it still passed through for copyright verification before it could be published. So it is one thing if it's just keeping books they don't like. It's another thing if they're trying to block copywriting of books that they don't like. Because depending on how far into the conspiracy theory you want to go, which gets less and less conspiracy every week, it feels, if they refuse to, like worst case scenario, if they refuse a book entirely, can't get it copyrighted, you'll likely have a harder time finding somebody to publish it and sell it at mass market. That would effectively ban it. Then that would mean your only option would be to self-publish through an ebook, which with the internet censorship that they are working on could also be automatically blocked from everywhere. That's the worser case scenario here. Now, another interesting thing is that MSN says she resigned. Resigned from the National Science Board and the Library of Congress Scholars Council. So what actually happened, I don't really know. Did she resign? Did she retire? Did he fire her? Yeah, there's so much false information that you really don't know for sure. There's AI bullcrap to figure out as well. Is it entirely possible that Politico is accurate and she was fired for pursuit of DEI and inappropriate books? Yeah, that's entirely possible. That would fit with the way things have been going. But what this means for all of us goes back to preservation and physical. And I will say too, even if you are conservative and in favor of this, keep in mind everything that is done sets a precedent, which means if a liberal gets into office, they can do the same thing back to conservative. That's why we need to actually work together, even if we don't believe the same thing. Because at the end of the day, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's going to affect everybody regardless of what you believe or what side you're on. Because believe it or not, people's thoughts can change over time. So it does appear Politico's a West Wing playbook, Insider's Guide to the White House. I'm going to guess Politico is more of a Republican side. Either way, that's, again, kind of the theme that I've been talking about as to why it's so important to save the past, preserve the future. It's all precedent. Even if you say, yes, porn should be banned, it's evil and it's against God's will, here's the problem. If under the way that bill was written, it does not define what qualifies. So if they wanted to take these DEI books, refuse copyright, force them to be ebooks, and then classify the ebooks as adult content that is banned, you've now completely cut off those books from being published and you're into full censorship. That is not okay. Regardless of what you believe about subject material, that is not okay. That is dangerous. And both sides, keep in mind, both sides are playing the American people. So we need to work together and protect everything. Like, where this is headed is anybody's guess, but it's not okay. We've already seen multiple states, mine included, waging war on libraries. Now we're seeing the Library of Congress. Keep in mind, books is a small part of the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress has extensive instrument collections, film collections, media collections. They're doing a lot of preservation. They are essentially archive.org for physical. Archive collects digital data, LOC collects physical, and then digitizes it. If LOC starts getting attacked, then it's going to be really, really Wild West on how our media is going to be controlled. We're already have seen what Nintendo is doing is going to get way worse. And honestly, even if libraries and bans and all that stuff doesn't end up being an issue, the other thing that we are finding is going to be a problem is average people being priced out of media, period. The only thing most people can afford is to stream, and then you're at the complete mercy of whatever service, especially for censorship. Because we're already seeing, like, vinyl is a collector or luxury. You'll pay $35 plus for a vinyl album. We're seeing movies head that way. A lot of stuff is getting limited releases. They're 30, 40, 50 bucks a piece. That's where that level of physical media is headed. For video is collector stuff, and it's going to be more expensive. They can price a good portion of the country out of physical media just by raising prices. You're not going to be able to get books for 10, 15 bucks. That's already hard. If you're paying 50 bucks for just a regular book, a lot of people won't do that. Pair that with getting rid of libraries, and you've essentially controlled the information flow. So, what that means by used, Better World on eBay has a lot of stuff for buy 3, get 1 free. I got a lot of stuff from thrift books, a lot of stuff that comes out. I'll just wait. I can get it 6 months later for $6 instead of 30. No, that does not help publishers, but at the same time, I'm collecting. I'm not in a position where I can pay retail. But keep those used booksellers in business, because that's becoming more of a big deal. One of the things that I really hope one day I will be able to do is to buy a pallet of random books and have the fun of just digging through it. But that's a very, very far away dream at this point. So that's after, if I was able to get to a point of being able to set up a dedicated library space, which, if right now private libraries would be fairly safe, because if you're not funded by the government, then they can't cut your funding to control you. At that point, it would be much more difficult. But all they need is just, probable cause to cause trouble. Not something that's really a concern right now. But, that's the latest. The war against libraries is definitely on. And, again, remember, too, it's more than just DEI. It's more than just inappropriate books. It's publishers not getting paid for people using their material. So I don't remember, is it the new Hunger Games book? On launch day, the digital copy through the local public library had a 40-person waiting list. That's 40 people that were not spending $25 on the book. That's a lot of money. And that's just in our county. That's a lot of money the publishers lost by not selling those people those books. So publishers have a vested interest in libraries going away. The other thing to remember, even if you think everything should be digital, there's no reason for physical media, there's no reason for libraries. Libraries are also warming centers. In the winter, they are cooling centers in the summer. They are a place for low income or people that can use internet without needing a computer. That is going to become more and more critical over the next 5 years with the direction that Windows 11 and beyond is headed. Remember, as Microsoft ends support for Windows 10, they are creating the largest amount of e-waste that we have really ever seen with what is unsupported. And they're beyond doubling down, they're tripling down. They're continuously cutting off workarounds to get Windows 11 installed on older hardware. That there's a lot of e-waste and a lot of computers that are going to essentially be Linux only. So it's beyond. Libraries are quiet places that people can go children can go to play. It's not always about reading. It's way beyond that. They're a place where people can go to make cheap copies of a resume, or to even write a resume and then print cheap copies. There's a lot that would be lost, and a lot more than just books is under attack. So, and another note on the warming and cooling centers. Malls are also warming and cooling centers, and as malls decline and more malls are closing or saving money by adjusting their temperatures, we're also seeing that disappear. I just saw a thing where it was a reminder that the government recommends 78 in the summer, and I think it was 63 or 65 in the winter. Like, that's a whole nother video that I could do. If you have a smart thermostat, you do not control it. And we are seeing more where smart people are realizing that their smart thermostat is remote controlled, usually by their energy provider. But we're also seeing tighter restrictions. I would not be shocked if in the next 10 years we have thermostats, even dumb thermostats, that do not let you set it below 78 for cooling. Like, they just don't give you that choice. Like, even with the conservative government and the energy rollbacks we're seeing, they're still kind of doubling down on that a little bit. And remember, data centers are one of the biggest energy usages right now, and they do that to provide all this streaming and all this cloud. So the more we can get out of the cloud, the more it's going to be environmentally friendly, and the more all of us are going to have more, I don't want to say control, but control of our own lives. So good luck. I'm getting closer to the next video. I've been doing a bunch of catalog updating this last week, which is why it's been quiet, but doing more and more of these Lewis-style rants it's just more and more wild. And this Politico article, literally after the one paragraph about Hayden being fired, the entire rest of it is how this is not the first time a war has been waged over books in the library, and whether they aligned with broader ideas of American identity, because after the library was burned in the War of 1812, they wanted to buy Thomas Jefferson's personal collection, and they did not feel that his collection fit. And he had stuff. Watch the Modern Marvels episode on the Library of Congress. It is fascinating, and it is also frightening with LOC being played with, because it's way more than books. Jefferson had a lot of religious texts, including one of the first English translations of the Quran, and there were a lot of people back then that fought it. So, everybody has the right to believe what they want and practice what they want, and I will say this, I don't go that level often. I will say this: you have the right to believe what you want to believe, and I have the right to not have you force your beliefs on me. That's it. That's where it sits. You can do what you want, believe what you want, but as soon as you start lecturing me, if I don't believe exactly what you want, then there's a problem. Do what you want, but don't start telling other people what they have to do. And I have had people look me dead in the eye and say that their salvation depends on my salvation. Like, I've had it from both sides. Like, I can stay pretty well down the middle. Just leave me out of whatever you want and do your own thing. So we got a lot to work on, and also keep an eye on archive.org. I just printed off a couple Apple II manuals for my Apple while I can get them, because they're up now. But the lawsuits against Archive are just going to get worse, and now that we're seeing war being waged on the physical libraries, it's just going to continue with Archive, especially as we're seeing, if we start seeing more of the copyright publishers, the RIAA, the MPAA, starting to lobby again, because we're seeing takedowns pick back up. We're seeing lawsuits pick back up all over data hoarders and Reddit. I'm seeing more people receive torrent takedown notices and ISP bans, and they're coming back again like they did in the early 2000s. They're seeing the threat. And don't put it past for somebody to start wanting to ban VPNs, because what they'll say is there is no lawful reason to use a VPN. And remember, a lot of the people in Congress barely know what a computer is. So just eyes open, ears open, because there's a lot of potential, and do not fall into the trap of that's a conspiracy theory, that'll never happen. Quit being a downer. That is how problems really happen. Remember, we're almost to 100 years of the Great Depression and seem to be headed in that direction. So good luck. We'll see you next time.